What's up, guys? Welcome back to Tool World, where we talk about everything Taekwondo. Just a brief shout out before we get started. Don't forget to check out our Tool World Plus program. We started a little whiles back, and we just uploaded another free video for the week where we kind of do a part 1 dissection of Kwanghae. So if you want to see it, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. It's going to be there. And let us know in the comments anything that you would like to see from Tool World. Also, we have a situational awareness seminar coming up. That's going to be on May 22nd. It is a virtual seminar. And it's open to everybody. So even people that don't do martial arts are welcome. And what are we going to be going over?
Well, we're going to kind of cover a couple different ideas on situational awareness. One, is it legal to use excessive force? And maybe cover a little bit some basic concepts of how to intercept the hand, the feet, specifically a weapon. That takes a lot of training though. And so it's not one easy lesson, but hopefully it gives maybe a different perspective on what you do in as far as martial art is concerned.
Mm-hmm. What is something that could happen that, as martial artists, we wouldn't expect to happen in a self-defense situation? And I'm not talking about the self-defense itself, but maybe afterwards.
Yeah, well, I think that everyone does martial art for different reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And self-defense has just happened to be part of martial art. I mean, that's what most people think of martial art is self-defense, but students do it for different reasons, maybe for discipline, maybe for respect, maybe for getting in shape, and maybe it is for competition, or maybe it is for self-defense. So there's a different variety of reasons why we do martial art, but I think at the end of the day, most people, when you talk about martial art, kind of think of it as self-defense, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and when we're talking about self-defense, it doesn't matter if what style you're doing. It's the only thing that really counts is, are you the last person standing still? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the end goal, I think. And I'm not here to argue whether one style is better than the other. I think a large part of it has to do with the individual and how they utilize their tools. And when we talk about self-defense, it's not always just the hands and feet. So we have to be concerned about that. However, as a black belt, I think we are held to a little bit higher level of responsibility, because we are trained to do certain techniques. Well, we train to kick and punch. We train to subdue somebody a little bit. That gives you an advantage over the average person. And it can be lethal, depending on what you do. And so, yes, I would agree that it's better to be tried by 12 than to be carried by 6. However, if you do go to court or whatever, the outcome may not be that good, right? So the thing about being in self-defense is that no matter what, when you get involved in those situations, the probability of you getting injured goes up. The probability of you getting arrested goes up. The probability of you going to court goes up. And the probability of you going to jail goes up. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of it. Things can go sideways. Mm-hmm. And it was not necessarily your fault. Just kind of went that way. And I'd like to maybe just kind of share a story about that actually happened. There was a student here in Pleasanton, California. And he got into a fight over a girl. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of consolidate that, there ended up to be kind of a group fight, and he ended up pulling off the guy that he had an argument with, and actually the guy was on the ground, and at the end of the day he went over there and he kicked him in the head and says, "I told you I was going to beat you up." And then he walked away. That the person that he kicked in the head ended up being seriously injured, and is actually now has to be taken care of by other people. So he's not able to function on as a regular person, which is unfortunate. And when he went to court, he tried to claim self-defense, but they found him guilty, and he served 7 years of prison time. So he violated one of the 5 rules of laws of self-defense, and that's the reason why he ended up going to prison. So the reason why I kind of bring that up was that in his court trial, they actually brought up the fact that he did martial art. He was a black belt in Taekwondo. And so they did bring that up. So when something like that happens, your background is going to be checked, and they're going to understand who you are as an individual. And so that's why I kind of say that as a black belt or any person that trains is going to be held to a little bit higher standard. It doesn't mean that it's going to convict you or let you off the hook. It just means that as a jury, they're going to go, oh, this person has some type of training.
Right. So what's the best course of action for somebody that might get into a situation, they see a situation coming? What's your first piece of advice?
Get out of there. Get out of the danger zone.
Yeah.
And so the problem, well, in his case, right, the problem was ego, you know, so we want to duke it out. There's different types of scenarios, and how do you handle those? So the first of all, in those kind of situation, road rage, it's ego, it's kind of like, no, it's not really worth it. Don't get involved. And that's the bottom line. Just don't get involved in situation. However, that's not always the case, right? You may be just walking along and all of a sudden you're assaulted. Now you have to engage. And so what's going to matter is your training, is how are you going to handle that situation.
What about if you see something going on, so you see a situation going on, and you feel like you could step in to help, what should you do then?
Again, I think that it depends on you as an individual, right? You're like 24 years old and you've got, you've got lots of energy, your back doesn't hurt. You might be able to get involved, right? I would caution that no matter what. First of all, if you're on an actual street situation, you don't even know why those person is on the ground, and you don't know what that person might be carrying. He might be carrying a weapon that you're not ready for, right? But if you see something that's quite like the other person is going to be seriously injured or killed, and you feel like you need to be able to stop them, and you feel like you can, then sure. Right? I myself, I'm thinking my back doesn't feel good. I have 2 hip replacement. Better just call 911 and hope that something can come out of that. Because I don't really want to get injured myself. Because you got to realize that can happen. But doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Mr. Wold, one of our black belts, actually got involved and helped out a police officer. A police officer was being pummeled by someone who on top of him and was hitting him, and actually the police officer was calling for help, and Mr. Wold actually jumped him, grabbed him, and then the police officer was able to control him. So that police officer was grateful that he did get involved. So yeah, if you can, that's great. So I think it's just something you yourself have to understand yourself, and then decide if you are able to do something like that.
All right, well, don't forget to check out our situational awareness seminar. We're going to be covering more things about that, like the laws of self-defense, different situations, utilizing tools, as well as some basic knife defense. And make sure to share it with all your friends, because this is invaluable information that everybody should know. But that's going to wrap it up for this week's Tool World podcast. Thanks for jumping in. Don't forget to be safe.
Keep training.
And have a great week.
Taekwondo.